Have you ever underestimated someone so badly you didn't realize they could end your entire empire? The voice is calm, steady, almost casual, but it slices through the chatter of the Harrington Estate's grand ballroom like a razor. Every crystal glass seems to pause midair. Heads turn. Phones rise discreetly, catching the moment from every angle. The smell of champagne and truffle canapes hangs in the air, but suddenly, no one is tasting anything. In the center of the polished oak dance floor stands Dr. Naomi Carter, 38 years old, tall, balanced frame, skin like deep bronze silk, face framed by sleek waves that catch the soft glow of the chandeliers overhead. Her black evening gown isn't loud, no sequins, no screaming designer logos, but it's perfectly tailored. It whispers wealth, control, and power without saying a word. Across from her, the Harrington family forms a loose semicircle. Jonathan Harrington, the patriarch, adjusts his cufflinks with a smirk. Eleanor, his wife, stands beside him with the cold poise of someone who's never been challenged in public. Vivian, their daughter, clutches a champagne flute like it's a weapon. And Marcus, the son, phone raised high, streams this to thousands of followers, a smug grin plastered across his face. Security, Jonathan says, his tone dripping with authority. Escort this guest outside. Gasps ripple through the room. Naomi doesn't flinch. She glances briefly at her platinum Patek Philippe. Exactly 9:17 p.m. Her lips curl into the faintest hint of a smile. Not the nervous kind, but the kind you see right before a chess master moves the piece that ends the game. Behind the Harringtons, the ballroom's 22-foot ceilings glisten with imported Venetian crystal. The air is heavy with old money rules, who belongs, who doesn't, and the unspoken certainty that power only wears certain faces. But tonight, that certainty is about to crack. Because in less than 15 minutes, the Harrington Foundation is scheduled to announce a $1 billion partnership. A deal so big it will be splashed across every business outlet in America. And Naomi Carter just happens to hold the keys to it. The Harrington estate in the Hamptons isn't just a house, it's a statement. 40 acres of manicured perfection, gated by wrought iron imported from France. The kind of place where the driveway is so long, you could get lost before you even see the front entrance. Tonight, a procession of Bentleys, Rolls-Royces, and Maybachs have been ushered up the cobblestone path, each vehicle depositing another member of New York's old money elite. Inside, the ballroom glows under chandeliers worth more than most people's homes. Polished oak floors stretch endlessly, framed by 22-foot ceilings and walls lined with oil paintings of ancestors who look like they've never worked a day in their lives. The air smells faintly of roses from the estate gardens, layered with the sharpness of expensive champagne. There's an unspoken dress code here, one not written on the invitation but carved into the DNA of this crowd. For the women, couture gowns that cost more than an average year's salary, preferably custom-fitted in Milan or Paris. For the men, tailored tuxedos with cufflinks that quietly announce generational wealth. But beyond clothing, there's something far more important: pedigree. Here, it's not just who you are, it's who your family has been for the last 100 years. And those rules, they're enforced without anyone ever raising their voice. A slight arch of an eyebrow when you don't recognize a name. A tight smile when you mention a vacation spot that isn't the right kind of exclusive. Even the way champagne is poured, only certain brands, only into certain crystal, becomes part of the silent hierarchy. Naomi Carter knows these rules. She's been in rooms like this before, though never as an invited guest of the Harringtons. She knows the way conversations pause when someone out of place walks by. She knows the subtle glances, the coded phrases, the way people's eyes flick to your shoes, your watch, your glass. Tonight, the Harrington Foundation is hosting their summer charity gala. On paper, it's about raising funds for education and the arts. In reality, it's a meticulously staged networking arena for America's most powerful dynasties. And the highlight of the evening? The announcement of a billion-dollar partnership set to redefine the family's legacy. Every handshake in this room is a transaction. Every compliment is calculated. Every smile hides a question. Do you belong here? Naomi doesn't just belong. She might be the most powerful person in the building. They just don't know it yet. It starts with a voice that cuts through the hum of polite conversation like a shard of glass. "Excuse me," Vivian Harrington says, her tone dripping with sugar-coated disdain. "I don't believe I've seen your name on our guest list." The crowd doesn't stop moving, but it slows, just enough for people to tilt their heads and tune in. A server freezes mid-step, holding a silver tray of champagne flutes. Somewhere near the string quartet, the violinist falters for a half-beat before finding the rhythm again. Naomi Carter doesn't flinch. Her gaze meets Vivian's with quiet steadiness. "Maybe you should check again," she replies evenly, voice low but carrying across the polished oak floor. Vivian's perfectly painted lips curl into a half-smile. "Security," she calls out, waving two black-suited men over. The subtle shift in the room is almost audible. Interest, anticipation, the thrill of a scene about to unfold. Eleanor Harrington joins her daughter's side, pearls catching the chandelier light. "Jonathan," she says over her shoulder to her husband, "we have standards for a reason." Jonathan's eyes sweep over Naomi, not in admiration but in assessment, like he's appraising an asset he doesn't recognize. "Let's not make this difficult," he says to the approaching guards. "Escort her outside, discreetly." Naomi's fingers rest lightly on the clutch at her side. "I have an invitation," she says, her tone calm but firm. One guard holds out his hand. "May I see it, ma'am?" She passes over a cream-colored card, the gold embossing catching in the light. He glances at it, frowns, then looks up at Jonathan. "It appears to be legitimate." "Appears," Eleanor repeats with a brittle laugh. "We both know how easy it is to copy things these days." Marcus Harrington, phone still raised, can't help himself. "This is content gold," he mutters, loud enough for a few nearby guests to hear. His live stream viewer count ticks upward, 4,006.8. Comments rolling in faster than he can read. The guard hesitates, shifting his weight. "Ma'am, perhaps we could step aside and verify this privately." Naomi doesn't move. "Privately?" she asks, one brow lifting ever so slightly. "You've already made it public." Her words land heavier than anyone expects. A murmur ripples through the crowd. Champagne flutes lower. Conversations die off. The air feels suddenly charged, as if the walls themselves are listening. What the Harringtons don't realize, not yet, is that they've just stepped onto a chessboard where Naomi Carter holds every powerful piece. And the first move has already been made. The moment happens so quickly, it almost looks accidental. A server carrying a tray of champagne glides past, weaving between clusters of guests. One heel catches on the edge of the Persian rug, and the slightest stumble sends a ripple through the air. Naomi shifts instinctively, her clutch slipping just enough for something to slide free. It lands on the polished oak floor with a muted thunk. Not a phone. Not a lipstick. A business card. The guard nearest to her bends down, picks it up, and glances at the front. His lips move as he reads. Carter Global Capital. The name seems to hang there for a second, suspended in the hush of the ballroom. Vivian tilts her head, eyes narrowing. "Never heard of it," she says, dismissive, her voice carrying just far enough to be overheard by a ring of curious onlookers. Probably some boutique, something. But not everyone in the room is so quick to dismiss it. Near the bar, a young hedge fund manager freezes mid-sip, recognition flashing across his face. On the far side of the dance floor, a Bloomberg reporter quietly lowers his glass and starts typing something into his phone. Meanwhile, Marcus's live stream comments light up like a slot machine hitting the jackpot. Carter Global? They're huge. LOL, these people have no idea who they're talking to. $60 billion OM. Top 5 private equity firms in the US. The feed's viewer count spikes. 8,000. 10. 12. Naomi takes the card back from the guard with a polite nod. "Thank you," she says simply, sliding it into her clutch as though it means nothing. But the way her hand moves, unhurried, deliberate, carries the kind of confidence that doesn't come from bluffing. Jonathan catches the subtle shift in the room's energy. His jaw tightens. "Even if that's your firm, Dr. Carter, was it? This is a private event. Attendance is by invitation only." "And I have one," Naomi replies, her voice steady. The guard glances again at the embossed gold lettering on her invitation, as if hoping it will suddenly reveal a flaw. It doesn't. Somewhere in the back, the Bloomberg reporter has stopped typing. He's now watching, phone camera recording, sensing that this is no longer just an awkward social misstep, it's the opening scene of a very public power play. The Harringtons don't realize it yet. But the first crack in their control has just appeared, and Naomi Carter is the one holding the chisel. Jonathan Harrington glances at the grandfather clock in the far corner of the ballroom, its polished mahogany frame gleaming under the chandelier light. The golden hands point to 9:25 p.m. 15 minutes, he murmurs to Eleanor, low enough for only her to hear. 15 minutes until the announcement. It's not just any announcement, it's the crown jewel of the evening. The billion-dollar partnership the Harrington Foundation has been cultivating for months. The deal that will cement their name across Wall Street headlines and anchor their legacy for the next decade. He straightens his tuxedo jacket, trying to push the incident with Naomi out of his mind. But the energy in the room has shifted. It's subtle at first, a few sidelong glances, a quiet murmur from guests who normally wouldn't whisper during a gala. Then, a sharper current of curiosity weaving through the crowd. Naomi catches it too. She glances at her platinum Patek Philippe watch. The second hand sweeps in perfect silence. She doesn't need a countdown app, the timeline is already etched into her mind. 15 minutes. That's all she needs. Across the room, Marcus is still holding his phone, his live stream continuing to gather viewers. Comments scroll by in a blur. She's not just someone. Lick her app. Y'all are about to see a masterclass. Harrington's messed with the wrong one. The viewer count ticks higher. 13,000. 15. 16. Vivian crosses her arms, still playing the role of the untouchable hostess, but there's a flicker of unease in her eyes now. She leans toward her brother. End the stream, she hisses. Marcus smirks. Relax. This is nothing. But even as he says it, his thumb hovers near the screen. Naomi takes a slow breath, letting her gaze travel across the ballroom. Every polished surface reflects her image back at her. The tall mirrors, the crystal champagne glasses, even the gloss of the marble pillars. The Harrington estate has been designed to showcase wealth, but tonight, it's going to showcase something else entirely. She steps slightly toward the center of the room. Not enough to be confrontational. Just enough to be visible. To remind them she's not going anywhere. 14 minutes. The seconds feel heavier now. Jonathan is making the rounds, shaking hands, delivering polite smiles, but his eyes keep flicking back to her. He doesn't know why he can't just ignore her presence. Naomi does. Because she's already positioned herself exactly where she needs to be. Right in their line of sight, and right on their ticking clock. Naomi waits until the murmur in the room swells again. Just enough for the Harringtons to think the moment has passed. Then, with the kind of quiet authority that makes people turn before they know why, she reaches into her clutch and pulls out her phone. The polished black screen lights up instantly, reflecting the chandelier's glow. She scrolls with practiced precision, finds the number, and presses call. Across the ballroom, Jonathan notices. His brow furrows. He doesn't like it, not one bit, but he tells himself it's nothing. People make phone calls at events all the time. The line rings once, twice, and then a voice answers, crisp and professional. This is Daniel Whitaker. Naomi's own voice carries just enough to be heard by more than the person on the other end. Daniel. Naomi Carter. I trust I'm not interrupting. Jonathan's head snaps up. Eleanor catches his eye. Vivian leans in, whispering, "Is that Redwood Industries CEO?" "It is. And half the room knows it now." "No, not at all," Daniel replies through the phone. "Is everything all right?" "Not quite," Naomi says, her tone even, deliberate. "About the Redwood, Harrington partnership. I need you to put a freeze on the deal. Effective, immediately." The words hit the air like a dropped champagne glass, and though nothing shatters, the soundless impact is felt in every corner of the ballroom. Conversations halt. Hands swivel. Even the string quartet misses a note. Jonathan takes a step forward, the tightness in his jaw visible now. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" he demands, his voice low but sharp. Naomi doesn't look at him. "I'm making a business call," she replies smoothly into the phone. "Yes, Daniel, I understand the contracts were nearly finalized. But there's been a material change in circumstances." Marcus's livestream is now a wildfire, 22,000 viewers and climbing. Comments fly across the screen. "Oh my God, she's killing the deal. She's in charge of Redwood's End? This is the biggest power move I've ever seen." Daniel's voice, though not audible to anyone else, prompts Naomi's faint smile. "Yes," she says. "Let's schedule a follow-up in the morning. But until then, nothing moves forward." She ends the call with a gentle press of her thumb and slips the phone back into her clutch as though she'd just confirmed a dinner reservation. The silence that follows is electric. Somewhere in the back, the Bloomberg reporter starts typing furiously, his headline already forming. Naomi glances at her watch. 13 minutes to the Harringtons' big moment, and she's just made sure that moment will never come the way they planned. Jonathan Harrington is still recovering from what just happened, jaw tight, fists clenched at his sides, when Naomi takes a single, unhurried step toward him. It's not aggressive, but it shifts the air between them. "I suppose now is a good time to be transparent," she says, her voice calm enough to unsettle anyone listening. "You've been so concerned about my presence here tonight. Maybe you should know exactly who I am to you." Eleanor's pearl necklace seems to tighten around her throat. Vivian tilts her head, crossing her arms like she's bracing for another round. Marcus, still holding his phone, can't decide whether to keep streaming or hide the footage before it buries the family. Naomi slides her hand into her clutch again, not for her phone this time, but for a single cream-colored envelope. She holds it lightly between two fingers, the gold-embossed seal catching the light. "This," she says, unfolding the document with deliberate care, "is an SEC Form 13D, filed 18 months ago. It outlines Carter Global Capital's acquisition of 36.4% of Harrington Group's outstanding common stock." The gasp from the nearest guests is audible. Somewhere, a champagne glass clinks against a tray, the sound sharp in the hush. Jonathan's eyes flicker, not disbelief, but calculation. He knows what that number means. "That makes me," Naomi continues, her gaze sweeping the family, "your single largest shareholder. Larger than the Harrington Family Trust. Larger than any institutional investor you've courted in the last decade." Eleanor's hand tightens on Jonathan's sleeve. "Jonathan," she whispers, though she has no idea what to say after his name. From the corner, the Bloomberg reporter lowers his phone from recording mode and starts typing furiously. Every detail here is gold. Naomi doesn't raise her voice, but somehow every person in the ballroom can hear her next words. "So when you ask whether I belong here, understand this, I don't need an invitation to my own company's party." Vivian's lips part, but no words come out. Marcus finally lowers his phone, staring at her like he's seeing a ghost, one that can write his future in ink or erase it with a single signature. Jonathan swallows hard, then forces out the only question left in him. "What is it you want, Dr. Carter?" Naomi's smile doesn't reach her eyes. "We'll get to that in a moment. But first, you're going to hear me out." Naomi doesn't move from her spot in the center of the Harrington ballroom. The silence that follows her last sentence isn't awkward, it's absolute. The kind of silence where everyone is waiting for the next line, afraid to miss a single word. "You've built this room on a set of unspoken rules," she says, her tone measured, not rushed. "Rules about who gets invited, who gets heard, who gets to stand in the light, and who stays in the shadows." Her eyes sweep the room slowly, deliberately, locking on different faces. She's not just speaking to the Harringtons now, she's addressing every member of the elite gathered in their home. Those rules end tonight. Jonathan stiffens, but Naomi keeps going before he can speak. "As your largest shareholder, I'm calling for an emergency board meeting. Monday, 9 a.m. sharp. Every seat at that table will be filled, and every voice will be heard. Not just the ones who look, talk, and think like you." Eleanor's grip on her champagne glass tightens, the stem trembling slightly. Vivian shifts her weight, trying to maintain her composure. "There will be leadership changes," Naomi continues. "The CEO role will be reevaluated immediately. Senior management will be reviewed for conduct, performance, and alignment with our values." Jonathan lets out a humorless laugh. "Our values?" "Yes," Naomi replies without missing a beat. "Equality, innovation, social responsibility. The values that keep companies alive in this century instead of rotting in the last one." The Bloomberg reporter's fingers fly over his phone. He's not even trying to hide it now. This is headline material. "There will be a comprehensive diversity and inclusion policy," Naomi goes on. "Not the performative kind. Measurable. Audited. Published quarterly alongside your earnings report." Someone near the bar mutters, "She's rewriting their playbook." Naomi hears it and smiles faintly. That's exactly right. Because a company's culture isn't set in marble, it's written in the choices its leaders make. And from this point forward, your choices will look very different. Her gaze returns to Jonathan, holding it just long enough for the weight of her words to sink in. If you don't like these terms, you're welcome to challenge me. But remember, I don't just own a seat at the table. I own the table. The moment Naomi finishes speaking, the ballroom erupts, not with applause, but with the hushed chaos of power-shifting hands in real time. Conversations that had been frozen in silence suddenly burst into rapid whispers. People lean toward one another, trading theories, connections, and damage assessments like traders in the heat of a market crash. Jonathan's face has gone pale, but his jaw is locked. Eleanor's grip on his arm is tight, not out of affection, but out of the instinct to steady something that's swaying. Vivian stands perfectly still, eyes darting between Naomi and the small clusters of guests now glancing toward the exits, already calculating how to spin their presence here tonight. The press moves first. The Bloomberg reporter who's been shadowing the evening steps back toward the corner, phone pressed to his ear, voice low but urgent. A photographer from the Wall Street Journal has stopped pretending to shoot candidates and is now aiming directly at Naomi. Across the room, a reporter from the New York Times taps away at her tablet, her expression somewhere between astonishment and satisfaction. And then there's the digital front. Marcus's live stream, which he still hasn't stopped, surges past 35,000 viewers. The chat is a flood of fire emojis, crown icons and hashtags, hashtag Naomi Carter, hashtag Boardroom Queen, and hashtag Harrington Checkmate already climbing into trending territory. Someone clips the moment Naomi said, "I own the table," and posts it on Twitter. Within minutes, it has hundreds of thousands of views. By the time the Harrington event coordinator nervously checks her watch, the first push alerts hit the phones of half the guests in the room. Bloomberg, largest shareholder, crashes Harrington gala, demands leadership overhaul. NYT breaking. Naomi Carter stuns Wall Street elites, freezes $1 billion deal. Jonathan turns toward Naomi, his voice just above a whisper. "You have no idea what you've just done." Naomi's answer is cool and immediate. "I know exactly what I've done. I've told the truth, in a room that's built on hiding it." The ripple is already spreading beyond the walls of the Harrington estate. PR firms are drafting emergency statements. Rival executives are watching from private clubs and penthouse apartments, wondering if their own unspoken rules could be next. And the billion-dollar announcement the Harringtons had been building toward for months? It's no longer a celebration waiting to happen. It's a time bomb, and Naomi Carter is the one who set the clock. By Monday morning, the Harrington Group boardroom looks and feels nothing like the one Jonathan has ruled for decades. The mahogany table gleams as it always has, but the atmosphere has shifted, heavily, decisively. There's no champagne, no small talk, no polite backpatting before business begins. Every seat is filled, and every eye in the room is on Naomi Carter. She arrives precisely at 9 a.m., her entrance as understated as it is commanding. No entourage, no theatrics, just a leather portfolio under her arm and a calm, deliberate pace that seems to set the room's tempo. "Let's get started," she says simply, taking her seat at the head of the table. The first agenda item, leadership review. Within minutes, Naomi makes it clear this isn't a symbolic exercise. The CEO position is declared under re-evaluation. Jonathan's role as chairman is suspended pending an ethics and governance review. Two senior vice presidents, longtime family loyalists, are removed from their posts for performance and compliance failures. There's no gloating in her tone, only precision. This isn't about personal vendettas, Naomi tells them. It's about corporate survival. The market doesn't forgive outdated leadership, and neither will I. Next comes the policy overhaul. Naomi lays out a comprehensive diversity and inclusion program, not as a suggestion, but as a binding requirement. The policy mandates diverse representation at every management level, independent audits of hiring practices, and quarterly public reports alongside earnings statements. Then, the financial commitment, a $75 million fund to support minority-owned businesses and suppliers. Not charity, Naomi clarifies, looking directly at Jonathan. Investment. Partners who will strengthen this company while reflecting the values we claim to stand for. She introduces an external advisory council made up of leaders from industries the Harrington Group has historically overlooked: technology startups, renewable energy, urban development. Their role will be to challenge the company's strategic blind spots before they become costly mistakes. Around the table, reactions range from guarded approval to silent resentment. But no one speaks against her. They can't. She holds the votes. By the time the meeting adjourns, the Harrington Group is no longer the insular empire it was 72 hours earlier. The old rules have been dismantled. The playbook has been rewritten. And as Naomi gathers her portfolio and heads for the door, she knows the changes are only just beginning. The real work, turning reform into lasting culture, starts now. 6 months later, the Harrington Group doesn't just look different, it feels different. The changes Naomi Carter initiated in that first emergency board meeting have rippled through every department, every branch, and every conversation within the company. The leadership chart on the corporate website is no longer a wall of identical faces. Executives from diverse industries and backgrounds now occupy key positions. Leaders chosen for their talent, vision, and ability to adapt, not just for their last name or Ivy League pedigree. The $75 million investment fund for minority-owned businesses has already produced measurable returns. Several suppliers brought in through the program have not only met expectations, they've exceeded them, cutting costs while increasing innovation. Naomi's point, that diversity is not charity but a competitive advantage, has become a proven fact in quarterly reports. The company's public image, once tainted by whispers of exclusivity and outdated values, has transformed. The same media outlets that covered the gala confrontation now feature the Harrington Group as a case study in successful corporate reform. CNBC airs a segment titled, From Scandal to Standard Setter, and Harvard Business Review publishes Naomi's detailed breakdown of the turnaround strategy. Even the markets have responded. After an initial drop, Harrington Group's stock price has climbed steadily, boosted by investor confidence in the new leadership and governance structure. ESG-focused funds, which had previously ignored the company, now hold significant stakes. Inside the company, the cultural shift is even more striking. Employees who once felt invisible now see pathways to advancement. The annual engagement survey shows a 27% increase in job satisfaction and a 35% improvement in trust toward leadership. Water cooler conversations, once cautious and guarded, now include ideas from every corner of the organization. And Naomi? She hasn't made herself the permanent CEO. Instead, she placed a respected operations expert in the role, someone capable of sustaining the reforms without reverting to old habits. Naomi remains as the largest shareholder and chair of the board, her presence a constant reminder of both the company's new direction and how quickly the tides can turn when arrogance blinds leadership. The night of the gala has become legend, not just in the Hamptons, but in boardrooms across America. Other executives whisper about pulling a Naomi Carter when they talk about decisive, values-driven leadership. And for the Harrington Group, the long-term impact is clear. The company didn't just survive its reckoning, it used it to rebuild stronger than ever. The story of Naomi Carter and the Harrington Gala isn't just a tale of corporate power. It's a lesson in how leadership, integrity, and strategy can change the trajectory of an entire organization and a person's legacy. The first lesson is this: never underestimate anyone. Too often, people size others up based on surface details, appearance, background, the cut of a suit, or the brand of a watch. But real influence isn't always visible until it moves. And by the time you recognize it, it might already be reshaping your future. Second, power is most effective when it's precise. Naomi didn't shout, didn't threaten, didn't try to embarrass the Harringtons with noise. She acted with intention, every word measured, every move calculated. That's the kind of power that commands respect long after the moment has passed. Third, values aren't window dressing, they're leverage. By tying her demands to equality, innovation, and social responsibility, Naomi made it impossible for anyone to dismiss her actions as personal revenge. She positioned her reforms as not just morally right, but strategically essential. That alignment is what turned her confrontation into lasting change. And finally, reform starts with accountability, but it lasts through culture. Removing leaders, rewriting policies, and investing in new partnerships were just the beginning. The real transformation happened when the Harrington Group's culture shifted, when the unspoken rules of exclusion were replaced with intentional rules of inclusion. You don't have to be a billionaire or a board chair to apply these lessons. In any workplace, in any community, you can choose to speak up when the rules are broken, to lead with values instead of ego, and to think strategically instead of reactively. Naomi Carter's story is proof that the most powerful statement you can make is not in destroying someone else's position, but in building a better standard in its place. Because in the end, power isn't about how much you can take from others. It's about what you choose to create, and who you choose to bring with you.